Imagine that right now, him just being like, oh, yes.
Genevieve Wood at Genevieve Wood.
Stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas.
Hi, Genevieve. What interesting information coming out of this brand new text message dump on the part of Senator Johnson, and emails that I think for the first time, not emails, but text messages for the first time that mention the President of the United States. This is in September 2016, and as far as I know, the President of the United States at that time was President Barack Obama.
Right. And, Jamie, I haven't seen the exact text, but, I mean, this is just further damaging evidence that shows, look, by all indications, this was a political plan, I should say, a plot, not a game, a plot to try to undermine the incoming President of the United States, being President Donald Trump. And the politicization of the FBI, the Attorney General, I mean, almost every arm that you could get, it looks as though the White House was playing politics to try to undermine the next administration or change who the next administration would be.
Yeah, it appears that this, whether it be this situation regarding these emails or the whole memo discussion, it appears that it's weird to watch first of all, a news media that basically is not the least bit curious about this dossier and about the Steele element of that and the role of the deep state, and also libertarians as well as progressives not even the least bit concerned about a potential abuse of the Patriot Act and the FISA court. I find that amazing.
It is amazing. Well, I think there's two things going on. One is I think they don't want to know much more, because the closer they get, the more that it undermines the fact that this whole investigation of the Russia collusion and the Trump administration it seems to be fraudulent. But it wouldn't be happening most likely were it not for the fake dossier at this point. So I think they don't want to get too close and know too much, because they don't want to undermine their own investigation that they've been championing for the past year and a half. And two, look, if it comes out, if it becomes clear and clear as I think it is, that there never was any collusion, that there really never was any solid evidence of any collusion, and that this was just a political plot from the get-go, can you imagine what that does in the public's mind for the left that's been championing this? I mean, that it's going to be very clear, A, it was a fraud case, and two, once they realized it was a fraud case, many of them, I think, knew it from the beginning, they tried to cover it up by trying to keep the memo from coming out, trying to keep all this kind of evidence from the public really knowing how it got started in the first place. I mean, sort of thinking about if you're the Democratic Party, what that looks like for you, and all of a sudden you have and if you're the media and you want Democrats to either become in charge and not lose any ground, you start thinking, well, why would they want to get any closer to this case? Why would they want to expose it? It doesn't look good for them. Yeah.
So what are you thinking regarding President Trump has said, all right, if we don't get this immigration deal, go ahead, shut it down. Where are we on this DACA deal and immigration?
Well, look, I mean, I personally think the president, in my view, went too far in the last offer he gave of the $1.8 million in amnesty. Yeah. I just think that it was too far. Having said that, he gave more than even the Democrats had asked for, many of them at this point, and they still said no, which I think in many ways he was just calling their bluff to show you guys don't want any kind of deal because you want to continue to politicize this issue. So at the end of the day, the DACA population and the Dreamers and so on, increasingly they're going to have to say, look, the president was going to make a deal to get you pathway to citizenship even, and yet the Democrats, because they want to politicize this, said no, because it also meant we had to secure our border. So I think that's going to be tricky for them. But right now, I am doubtful the Democrats are going to want to shut down the government over this, because they saw what happened to them last time on this. The people didn't like it. The polls showed independents didn't like it. So I think they're going to find funding it most likely. But the DACA situation, fight over immigration, is going to continue on, and that deadline is looming in March.
So, okay, let me ask you this then. What happens if the deadline passes? Like, what happens if it expires? And, I mean, like, what goes on at that point?
Well, President Trump, I don't think constitutionally should do this and say, well, I'm going to extend it again. Having said that, he isn't the one who started this. President Obama does.
Yeah.
Or President Obama did. So, hopefully I don't think he should extend it, but he could just let it expire. The question is, what would happen then? I mean, the reality is right now the administration is working to go after gang members like MS-13 and getting more of the bad guys out of the country. I don't think all of a sudden you're going to see the immigration authorities rounding up DACA recipients. But what could happen is that many of them would start losing their work permits to be legally here working in the country that they were given. So you might start seeing some self-deportation in that sense. But my guess is it's not going to get that far, but they're going to come to some agreement to kick it further down the road and continue these debates.
Yeah, and that's assuming that somebody who loses their work permit will just say, well, I guess I'll just go back home. I mean, especially given...
Well, that's right, and exactly. I mean, my guess is you're not going to see a lot of change at all. Because,
yeah.
As I said, there's a lot of other enforcement that the administration is focused on right now, but it's not good to have a whole group of folks who are in limbo here. That's not a good situation. It's not good for them, but it's also not good for the country.
Right. Yeah, and
you have people. It's just not a good situation.
Yeah, and President Trump really, I mean, as you point out, constitutionally, this whole discussion is because Barack Obama's writ regarding DACA was on itself unconstitutional. So for the president to extend it would just simply be him doing the same thing Obama's doing, and that would be unconstitutional.
That's right. I mean, look, and he's done it once, but he did it saying, I'm going to give Congress a chance to fix this thing. So if you do it again, then Congress is going to say, well, he gave us, 6 months last time, and we didn't get it done, so he'll give us another chance. Where does that game eventually end? I mean, eventually somebody has to call the bluff, which I think the president did against the Democrats in trying to get a deal done. They weren't willing to come to the table then. We'll see what happens when the deadline actually comes, and he says, look, I gave you guys a chance to fix this. It's now over. That's on your hands, not mine.
Yeah.
Because you had the chance to get it done, and it's Congress's role to get it done. That's the other thing. This really isn't the president's job.
Right.
It's Congress's job dealing with our immigration laws. So I think both Republicans and Democrats in Congress have an interest in getting it done, but we'll see if they actually do. But the March deadline may force their hand.
I don't get a chance to thank you enough for taking the time out every Wednesday to talk with us the way you do at your busy schedule and everything else. So you are appreciated, Genevieve Wood. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jamie.
All right, I'm going to trick you into listening to the rest of the show because when we come back, I'm going to talk about this House seat in Missouri had changed to Democrats.
We all hear about